It was the summer of 2017, and all Crash fans were rejoicing at the release of the Insane trilogy. But after this hype came to a close, people started wondering whether another Crash remake were to be in development, this being Crash Team Racing, as it was the last Crash game to be developed by Naughty Dog, other than, some other game. So, after over a year of waiting, the Game Awards finally delivered this announcement. Unless you were watching GameSpot's stream, because they got taken down for copyright just before the announcement. Imagine watching that whole presentation only to miss the coolest thing. But now we're in 2019, and Crash Team Racing Nitro-Fueled has finally come out. As for me, I never played the original game, but I also never played the original trilogy, and I love the remake for that. So, it all comes down to the actual quality of the game, and how it would compare to other current kart racers, like Mario Kart. But let's just start out simple with the single player content. So the first thing that has to be addressed here is that this game has a real story mode. Yeah, full hub worlds, cutscenes, bosses, it has it all. And yeah, the story is pretty linear, but that's probably the best way they could have done it. Though, let me explain. So the story of this mode is Oxide is trying to be the best racist in the world and will bulldoze whoever tries to threaten that position, in this case of course being Earth, but good old Cortex won't let anyone be a better racist than he is, so he battles to be the one to defeat Oxide. It's a pretty standard plot, not much is going on here, but really, that's a good thing. You wouldn't want to go overboard with story in a game like this. They have the perfect amount. There are cutscenes after each boss and one at the end, which is perfectly acceptable. They probably didn't even have to do that, considering how simplistic these older cutscenes were, but they went beyond the original in that aspect, and I appreciate it. It gives the game more life, and helps the player stay invested in wanting to keep progressing. Speaking of that, the way progression works is that each race you place first in gains you a trophy, and the more trophies you get, the more races you get access to. It's again, standard stuff, but that's alright. If the gameplay is good, you'll really want to keep progressing regardless of story, and that's exactly what the gameplay is. What sets apart CTR from other racing games to me is the way you control your speed. Something you'll learn pretty quickly while playing is that drifting matters. A lot. The way it works is that when you execute a drift, your little power meter down here increases. You get 3 additional boosts based on your timing. These range from failing, good, and perfect. It's really skill-based, which I like a lot. It demands the player to have good timing if they want to win the race, rather than just doing it for them. But it's not like it's cumbersome towards beginners or anything. You'll get the pattern down after a few races. I'll get more into drifting later, but everything else gameplay-wise is no exception to the norm. You still have your items, your braking, doing tricks off ramps, etc. But what sets this game apart from others is the way it uses these common tropes in clever new ways. These Wumpa Fruits, for example, function a lot like coins from Mario Kart, and make your vehicle go faster based on how many you have. Where CTR is different though, is that these fruit also interact with the item system. Basically, there's 2 different versions of each item. One normal you get between 1 and 9 Wumpas, that's consequence for hitting it is pretty low, and one turbo you get for 10 Wumpas, which is a better version of every item that has much more of an effect. For example, with these green potions, if you drive into them, you spin out for a second, but you're fine to keep racing. With the red potion, awarded for 10 Wumpas, not only do you spin out, but you also get this rain cloud above your head, slowing you down for the next 10 seconds, while also making your item unusable until the time is up, which as a result also changes the item you had saved before hitting the potion into a potentially worse one. As you could imagine, having 10 Wumpas is something you really want to have. Which is a fantastic addition. I feel like in Mario Kart, the mechanic of 10 coins making you go faster wasn't really noticeable and you just had to take the game's word for it. But here, you're directly reaping the benefits. And there's tons of other things here gameplay-wise that just feel like more thought-out versions of things in Mario Kart. Like, you know that little boost you get in Mario Kart at the starting line if you hold the gas right at the second light? Well, CTR also has something like this, but it's more skill-based and has multiple outcomes. You can wait until right at the end and get a little boost, or you could try to slowly rev up your engine and get an even better boost. It all comes down to your timing though, because the latter option is pretty easy to screw up. See, just this adding of layers to pre-existing concepts is so cool, and just makes the game a lot more interesting in general. Getting back to the power-ups though, they're pretty good. You got your typical stuff like invincibility, speed boosts, a clock which is basically just the lightning bolt, but you also have some unique items in here too, like this TNT. Think about it like the fake item boxes from Mario Kart, but here you actually have a chance to shake it off if you keep hopping, which is a concept I really love. And guess what, if you have 10 Wumpas, this TNT turns into a Nitro Crate and blows up on impact, giving you even more reason to want to get these little fruits. Then you have missiles, which perform as red shells, but actually make sense. Yeah, in Mario Kart, red shells will always track you down as long as there isn't an item in their path, no matter how far back they're thrown. Here, you actually have to be in the vicinity of that player, or your missiles will just careen into a wall. Which actually helps the player in first place? No. It cannot be! Yeah, this concept of punishing the first place player has always been one I haven't been a fan of. I get it gives a chance for the others to catch up, but then at that point you kinda just strategize to be in second, and just wait for first to get blue shelled. While this game also has a blue shell type item, if you're really good it won't matter, because that's the only thing that's going to be hitting you that game, still securing your lead. You want to be first here, just to avoid all the commotion in last place and not have to deal with missiles, which I think is the first time I've seen a kart racer try to be actually nice to first place, and I like it. Getting back to the story mode though, it has you going through all the tracks of the game, and I gotta say, all these tracks are really well designed. They all have an emphasis on drifting to allow you to be boosting pretty much always. If you see a straight path, you can most likely boost on it to double your speed. It's really fun to try and keep up your speed in these maps, and none of them are basic. They all have some kind of neat thing going on in them that sets each one apart. Also, none of these stages are confusing either. It's really clear where you have to go, especially with the minimap. Also, the shortcuts in this game are awesome. You see, in Mario Kart, most of the shortcuts kind of require you to have a mushroom, and if you don't have one, well, that shortcut isn't very short. But here, every single shortcut can be done by just wisely using your speed. If you think something is impossible without some sort of boost power-up, try it again with more speed and a well-timed jump, and you will get it guaranteed. I love this use of shortcuts, because instead of just letting the game decide whether you can do one or not, it's up to you to keep up the speed necessary to pull it off. That isn't to say these shortcuts are easy, they require precise timing, and if you don't pull them off, usually the consequence is losing a lot of time. So there's more risk and reward to them than anything, which is exactly how shortcuts should be. Getting back to the maps though, in terms of visual design, well, it's important to know what the original looked like first. And I'm gonna be blunt when I say this, the original game is really ugly. It's mostly due to the poly count and the way PS1 handles 3D, which isn't the original game's fault at all, but it's also because nothing is going on in the background. It all looks so dull and plain, and these places around the world we're supposed to be visiting don't look like they've been lived in at all. Well, the remake fixes this twofold by making everything look very nice and appealing, and has tons of fun background elements. Seriously, take a leisurely drive through a stage and you'll notice how much is going on back here. It's another thing they didn't have to add, but it just goes one step closer to making the game more visually appealing, which of course is appreciated. I'd say my favorite stage is Hot Air Skyway, just because of the sheer amount of ways you could keep up your speed in that map. Like here in this junction you get the choice of going the longer way or veering right to go the faster way. You might be thinking that it's obvious which way to go, but here's where it gets interesting. The right way is faster, sure, but that's only temporary. The left way gives you more chances to keep your boost going, which means you could keep this blue fire past this section. But this is hard to pull off and you have to be precise. In Double Butt, you could do this too on the other side, but you have less time to keep your boost going, making the left side more secure in that aspect. All of this from this little fork in the road. And this game is full of stuff like that, where you could go for the easy way, but the harder way could save you some time. It makes the player have to be thoughtful about their surroundings, and actually consider which way will be most beneficial towards them, which is a good thing to do in a racing game. And in terms of least favorite stage, well, honestly I really like them all, except for Dragon Mines. Yeah, not only is it one of the less interesting stages due to its linearity, but it also has this turn that is such shit! Seriously, I don't know how you're supposed to make it around here without braking. You just can't, and that's no fun. But not only does the campaign have these normal races in it, it also has two other modes. A time trial mode that functions just like the old games, and a new CTR mode, where you have to find 3 tokens within a track and place first to win. The time relics are okay. I liked them a lot in the original games, but there they were on a set path, and your margin for error was allowed to be larger because of it. Here you have to do the same course 3 times in 3 different ways, and if you so much as lose speed once, say goodbye to that platinum. Getting all the sapphires is no problem though, but I wouldn't exactly consider it fun either. What I would consider fun are the CTR challenges. It's really enjoyable to find these things in stages. It makes you want to explore a bit more and find new secrets and discoveries to your favorite tracks. This tied in with having to come first makes these pretty intense and a good time. I would definitely recommend these over the relics. Also in the story mode we have these special courses that are basically just the battle mode, but you're by yourself and you gotta find out the most time-saving route. And I almost skipped these altogether until I realized they're essential to being in the game. Battle mode in Kart Racers is dumb, and if you say it's your favorite part, then you're lying. Simple as that. So I wasn't really into these, but they're not awful or anything. They just require some trial and error, which can get a little annoying, but you'll get through eventually. But yeah, about that ending, if you 100% the story mode, you can go through the 5 Grand Prix, which have you going through all of the previous tracks, proving what you've learned along the way. Once you do this, you're rewarded with colored gems. You get all of them and challenge Oxide to one final race off, you get a special ending congratulating you for beating the story mode, and you unlock Oxide's car. I know that might not seem like a very big reward, but I mean it's cool enough. Either way, going through everything the story mode had to offer was a lot of fun. All the tracks were well designed, the CPUs were just right in terms of difficulty, and the extra modes provided some more good fun. And that's just the story mode. Another mode you have here is the time trials, that are basically just relic races, but actually good. They have you racing against Entropy and Oxide, and beating their scores gains you these neat little stars. And here's where the term get good really applies. If you want to beat these guys, especially Oxide, you need to have a good grasp on how this game works. Like, a really good grasp. Oxide uses all the most optimal boosts, hops, shortcuts, and is faster than Cortex to boot. It's going to take you many tries to master these tracks like he has, but eventually, with enough practice, you'll just get it. And finally seeing Cortex's happy face makes it all worth it. Yeah, I guess I should mention there's other characters here with varying stats, which is cool, but I'm loyal to my boy. There's also tons of car parts here that are all just cosmetic, which means you could really mix and match and have fun with this concept. It's impressive how many of both these characters and cosmetics there are too. And considering the Grand Prix, we'll just be getting even more. Yeah, there's this thing that was added onto the online called the Grand Prix, where the more you race, the higher you level up and earn Wumpa coins, which could lead to you earning or buying a character. And it also adds a stage, which is super neat. It's great to be getting new stages after the game already came out, especially when they're as good as this one is. You get points for playing every day, so it's really just a smart way to get people coming back to the online. I'm currently making this video during the second one, and I gotta say, both were great. It did keep me wanting to play every day, and even though I don't really care about the things I unlocked, it felt like progress either way. Though that's not to say I have no problems with the online, that couldn't be further from the truth. The online's got some issues, first off being the way matchmaking works. It doesn't. Okay, well it does most of the time, but sometimes you're just sitting there. It generally works, and the times it doesn't, I just have to leave and come back in, so it's not too bad. But that's not the only problem with the matchmaking. If you wanted more reassurance that you're not good at the game, here's where you're gonna get it. It doesn't pair you with people on your skill level at all, so you have this one guy who sits at first the whole time, and then you have the circus back here. Yeah, remember when I said this game congratulates first place? Well, it really congratulates first place. Which would be fine if everyone were on an equal playing ground, but they're not. It pairs anyone with anyone, and it creates some really one-sided matches. I love the idea of helping out first place, but it doesn't work when you have a literal god in your game. Why not put those stars we get from the time trials to use and create some sort of a ranking system? That way it matches those who have mastered the game and those who haven't. Really, any kind of system would be better than this. The online is also weirdly limited as well, like how you don't get to choose the maps you vote on, or how you can't play with a local friend. Things that don't really matter, but would be nice. As it stands now, the Grand Prix are great, but the online in general needs some work. Hey, actually, let's check out the pit stop. I got a lot of coins. Yeah, actually, never mind, I think I'll save them. Oh wait, I gotta talk about microtransactions. Whoopee! Okay, so when this game was coming out, they said they had no microtransactions planned. But then, after a couple months, Activision announced that there are microtransactions, and they're coming up next. This of course made everyone angry, because what it seemed like was that they just waited for the glowing reviews and dumped in the microtransactions afterwards because it wouldn't affect their press. So now we're in a state where whoever talks about this game has to bring up the microtransactions and how evil they are. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I don't care. Of course, I agree, they shouldn't be here. But you're trying to tell me that I should stop enjoying this game because of the ability to buy things? Hello, McFly, everything you buy is cosmetic, it doesn't matter. Hot take, I know, but I just can't be bothered to get in a tizzy about this because it doesn't even affect the game. I get it, microtransactions bad, Activision bad, but game? Good. I'm not going to let a decision that wasn't even Beanox's to make spoil the game for me. And you shouldn't either. Again, I'm not trying to defend the microtransactions, they shouldn't be here, I agree. But this game is still incredible. It has some of the best racing mechanics I've ever seen, a greatly balanced item system, an amazing story mode, tons of extra content, a growing cast of characters and cosmetics, and is probably the best time I've had with a kart racing game ever. But at the end of the day, none of this matters. You're just looking for a fun kart racer to play with your friends. And of course, Mario Kart is the way to go. It has brand recognition, it's bundled with the console, it has the most user-friendly handling out there, and all your friends have it. But, if you're looking for a game that more leans on the single-player side of things, then give CTR a try. It might be just what you're looking for.